All right. You guys can hear us. Everything is good. All right. Well, this is going better than I expected so far. Welcome to the AZ Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Hamid Shojai. Arizona's tech ecosystem is rapidly growing with incredible companies that are shaping our future. Every week, I sit down and talk with some of the people who are making an impact in this critical sector of Arizona's economy. All right, let's go. All right. So I'm going to do a quick intro on each of these guys so that we don't have to talk to them and have them tell you about themselves. Bob LaLoggia, sitting to my right, is was founder of a local software company. I guess you still are a founder of that company.
So.
Appointment Plus. He built the company to about 100 employees, around 12 million in revenues before he sold it late last year, right? So he's now retired, focusing solely on his biceps, if I'm not mistaken, right? So just
That's correct.
huge biceps. Chris Cardinal, sitting diagonally across from me, is co-founder of Synapse Studios, a custom software shop that they'll develop anything for you. He's got a team of about 50 people, right?
60
people.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, and they'll build your software products, and they're building software products for all kinds of different companies. And Chris has been a contestant on both Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And the reason he's here is because he's a very opinionated guy. You guys will soon find out. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
And then Mike Roberts, who's sitting across from me, is founder and CEO of SpyFu. They're a marketing tech company that allows basically market researchers or marketers to spy or look at the keywords of their competitors, what they're sort of like spending their money on and how much they're paying for those keywords and all kinds of stuff, hence SpyFu. And he's built a organically grown, profitable software company around 7-8 million in revenues, and he spends 25% of his time surfing in San Diego, apparently.
That's the dream.
I guess that's technically true.
That's literally what you told me today.
You're right. No, it is. Well, no, it makes my life 25% better.
Oh, yes.
Which
but
is hard.
How much of the time do you spend surfing then?
Well, 3 hours a day, 3 months a year.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
whatever that amounts to.
3 hours.
Technically, it's a quarter of my life. It's good.
Yeah. Well, so then it better.
No, you're right. You're right on both angles. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So and we have all kinds of different topics we can jump into. We've sort of been circling around an email with some topics. Where do you guys want to start?
I think that's literally your job.
I'm passing it along. As host, I can do whatever the fuck I want. So, Chris, you got to get the rules down.
Wait. The Pagely thing.
Oh, yes. One of our friends,
Yeah.
Josh.
Josh and Sally just sold Pagely.
Yeah, Josh and Sally.
GoDaddy.
And Pagely is a WordPress hosting provider. And GoDaddy, as you guys know, is one of the largest tech companies in Arizona, publicly traded. Multi-billion-dollar company, and they just bought Pagely, so that's huge. Congrats to Josh if he's listening.
And
if
we
he's
all
not,
got
he's
the
bastard.
texts. I know.
Yeah.
He's a bastard. Here's to you, Josh.
Yeah. All right, we got a lot of
And Sally.
And Sally. Yeah. Huge congrats.
Sally
to
and Josh, basically.
Either way will work. We're not biased in one direction or the other. So. All right, so we got taxes, we got metaverse, we got NFTs, we got Bitcoin, power consumption. Where do you guys want to start?
I want to talk about surfing. So, okay, have
Very
you seen a shark?
high-tech comment.
Dolphins every day. Lots of
Every
dolphins.
day?
Yeah, crazy. Like right out there,
Where do you surf?
right in front of my house.
Where?
Where's your house?
Like in Arizona, which is where most of us are from.
At
his house,
in front of our
North,
house is
North
like
County, San Diego, Oceanside.
okay, second house.
It's not my current house. It's my second house. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what happens when you become a rich bastard who from a tech startup and.
Hey, yeah, bootstrapping for life, baby. I guess that's I don't know. But
So why do you surf? What do you get out of it?
I haven't always surfed, and I only learned because I got that place. And obviously, if you have an ocean in front of you and there's like surfers out there, you kind of like do that, right? You learn. And I started out like boogie boarding, but I surf now because I can't not. It's like a weird. It's a thing that you should do, get really into it, and if you do, it might change your life in a way that you definitely didn't expect. Like, it's not like snowboarding or something. It's not the same. It's like you...
Is it because you feel like one with nature, or how does it change?
Yeah, because you have to intently focus on the waves coming at you from a distance, and then you like learn how to time them, and then you get destroyed by it. It holds you under the water and tries to take your life every day.
Sounds
you get
like-
out, and then you paddle as hard as you can.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what happened to Ali. Where's Ali?
And then eventually you like learn how to like ride it for like 1 second. And you're like, that was amazing. But then you can do it once you get good at it. You can do it like every 2 minutes. You can catch a wave every 2 minutes if you're good, and the waves are treating you well. And it's really about, that's the thing, is as good as you can get. It's really about whether or not the ocean is going to be nice to you. So then you kind of like develop this weird fucked up relationship with the ocean. You're like, oh, thanks, ocean. And then you suddenly realize why people created their little deities, right? Like, I'm sorry, they created the god of the oceans and the god of the, I don't know, whatever's. And you're like, because you're kind of like, oh, thanks, ocean. And it's like, what the fuck did I just do?
Or say.
Yeah, what did I just do? Why did I just thank the ocean? That's so weird. I experienced this one other time when I was, when the volcano was erupting in Hawaii. I just flew there on a whim and just kind of like backcountry and got to like the lava. And
As you do.
yeah, and like when the volcano is erupting and you're the only one there and it's the middle of the night, and the ground is shaking and literally splitting apart, and gases are coming out, but it's beautiful. You kind of like develop these superstitions, and the people there, they get really superstitious about like what you can do to the lava and how you talk to Pele, and it's like, and I'm like, whatever. I was disrespectful when I first went there. As they would call it, but then I like sort of somehow became slightly respectful, and now and when the ocean tries to kill you, then you wind up, anyway, this is deep, dude. Why'd you ask me this?
Well, now you guys know why Mike is one of the guests, and the volcano experience is kind of funny because I remember you calling me or texting me or something at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. He's like, volcanoes are erupting in Hawaii. I'm thinking about going. You want to go with me? And I'm like, when are you going? And I literally considered it. He's like, oh, I'm leaving on a like midnight flight or like overnight flight or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, tonight? And like, just like that. He's like going to the volcano that's erupting rather than going away from it. I thought that was super interesting. But there is a metaphor there with the whole surfing. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I have a segue question.
Yes. Save us.
Has it made you a better CEO and a better entrepreneur? And the reason I ask is because it's really important to clear the mind and think about different things and try to find some balance.
Yeah, I think I go out there and I think that I would like have time to reflect.
But you're mostly just focused on not
Dude,
getting
you
killed
can't.
by the
You
But
can't.
it's probably better than
Yeah,
reflecting.
you're empty. That's what fighting sports are also awesome because you can't really think about anything when you're getting punched in the face.
Well, and to that point, Bob, I think it's true. Wow,
It is. It focuses.
it focuses you right on
That and like race car driving is
Yeah.
real good for that.
I mean, to that point, I think anybody who's an entrepreneur is really intimately familiar with the sensation of the business is constantly occupying so many of your mental cycles. Like you go to sleep and you're laying awake and you're thinking like, okay, I have to make payroll. Okay, I have to deal with these issues. And so the bracing feeling of getting punched in the face or drowned by the ocean is freeing from that feeling. And if that's what it takes to bring you to that freedom, I get it.
And it's different from meditation. Like we try to meditate, but then we start thinking about the business, right? You should still meditate, but this is completely different. It's a different kind of meditation.
It's a meditation on fear.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
you'll wind up coming up with metaphors for everything. Oh, you paddled for the wave, and then and then there's just all kinds of golfers do this. Everybody will create their metaphors for life based on the sport, whatever. So
Right.
I also think
surfing's
it's
no
pretty
different.
interesting, Mike, like you addressed specifically that the journey began with a bunch of failure, like incremental tiny failures where the ocean was beating you down or kicking the shit out of you. And it's like, wow, we're right back to entrepreneurship.
Right.
Like you're going
The ocean is like the marketplace essentially, and waves are like whether the market is for your type of business and product and category and taking you with it or going against it.
It's just that, that same sort of philosophy that you're going to fail a bunch of times. And if you're not the one who's going to be going back out there, I mean, how long did it take before you were able to surf for 3 minutes, for a little, every 2 minutes and catch a couple of actual waves?
Oh, yeah, like 500 hours or something,
Yeah, you're dedicating that time and you're getting the shit kicked out of you a lot of that time. So
All right.
again, back to running a business.
I want to talk about specific tech topics that have been happening right now. Like one of the big ones is around infrastructure bill. Any comments around that? There's money in there for all kinds of different stuff, including tech, including broadband. Any opinions on there? There's taxes that are changing. Feel free to jump out.
Oh, I'll just still lean. No, I have no idea. There's an infrastructure bill?
This dude's busy
been
surfing.
surfing. Too much.
I turned off the news a while ago. I was like, nah, I'm good. So, no, I have no idea.
You heard about
I don't even
the
know.
taxes
I
and
don't even
Elon
know.
Musk selling his Tesla shares for.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
that-
no,
everyone's heard about that one, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of interesting.
that
So,
was a really interesting thing to do.
especially
The
on
polling.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's kind of a one-sided poll though, because he could have just decided to sell anytime. Even if the answer was like, no, don't sell. A week later, he could be like, well, I chose to sell 5% instead of 10%.
Did you vote?
Just to see the responses.
What did you vote?
No.
I voted no.
Why would people vote yes? Because
yeah,
more
I
voted
don't-
yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, 55% voted yes, 45% voted no, I believe.
I guess if you didn't have Tesla stock, you, in general, you're benefiting from the fact that he would have to pay taxes on that,
Yeah.
right? So, yes, as a whole, as a society. But going back to sort of the fundamental question that brought up is the billionaires' tax system. Do you guys have any sort of opinions on that? I know, Chris, you have a lot of opinions with respect to taxes. You got to get those opinions out,
You're
right?
going to out me as a fairly liberal person at this table here. Yeah. There's like a split between should we be taxing the rich and the ultra rich, and the answer is probably. And should we be doing it by taxing unrealized gains? The answer there gets to me a lot murkier because
Right.
that starts to verge on problematic for a lot of physics reasons. Like it just becomes
Well,
difficult.
we tax people on property that's unrealized gains, right?
That's true.
As the property goes up, you pay more on your house taxes or whatever.
And in that sense, it's a maintenance tax that you continue to pay perpetually.
Right.
So you don't get to own this building here without continuing to pay taxes on it on a recurring basis.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear you're for it.
I'm not necessarily against it.
I'd never
but, you know,
considered
I-
the
Property
parallel
tax?
to
Yeah.
property tax.
It's like nearly identical.
It is. How is it not identical? It seems identical.
I'm surprised. No,
Property
other
tax
people
is
don't
like-
bring it
I
up.
think like if you
it's-
start to dig into where it starts to slip away, it has to do something with the volatility of the thing. If a stock runs up 1,000% in a year like Tesla has, if
Right.
you get taxed at this point, then it craters. Yeah, technically you can write that back down and realize the loss and maybe get a credit back. But it's challenging, and then it becomes more difficult because you're also pushed into this position of having to sell the stock to pay the tax, which
Right.
gets a little. You don't have to sell your property to pay your property tax.
Well, you would if
So-
you didn't have the money.
That's true. Sure. That's
I mean,
fair.
it's nearly identical, and then you could
is.
still sort of like be conservative in the way that you value it. So you could go off of like the past 2 years average or something to that effect, or
Yeah.
and weigh it down.
I think that the core impulse is that Elon going from $100 billion net worth to $300 billion in a year feels intrinsically problematic in terms of the have and have-nots kind of problem, right? You have the whatever $1.5 trillion of wealth added to the top 100 people who have money, and everybody else is just like, fuck, all right, well,
I got a $600 check.
yeah, that's great. I sure hope we can pay for roads now.
Right.
And so there's that reach for if anybody can afford it, they can. And then the counter argument we hear all the time is, oh, but they're the job creators, or they're the ones who are crazy enough to invest in things and whatever.
I think the best counter argument to higher taxes is that the government wastes a lot of money.
Sure, that's
right? I mean, they're the least efficient users of capital.
I disagree with that as a blanket statement.
Okay.
There are absolutely ways in which the government is miserable at oversight, but in many times that could be something that can be revolutionized by some degree of better oversight, some degree of depoliticization around those things, and some degree of process improvements. Like CMP, right, the Center for Medicare, whatever the P stands for, is responsible for managing a lot of the costs that go out of Medicare. And then we look at it and go, oh, you spent $600 on this toilet seat that you have, and that feels wrong because.
Right.
But that's a failure of the system there. And on the inverse of that, where government is efficient, I would point to your roads and your core infrastructure at
Right.
times being far more efficient than if we created a profitable component within it that, if you go back to anywhere in the East Coast, you have to pay tollways in order to use
Yeah,
a
it's
bridge
crazy.
or a road. And so there are ways where at a certain point, like the expression I was thinking about was everybody thinks it's cool to be libertarian until you need to drive on a road.
Right.
Like at a certain point, there's
And
some
send your kids to
collectivism.
school or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And demonstrating that there's inefficiencies in the government's a quick, head check towards this idea that, there's some intrinsic inefficiencies there. So what? Is the money better off in Elon Musk's hands as he tries to get us all to crash and burn on Mars?
Well, I mean, essentially, it's not one either or, right?
Sure.
You could have plenty of money in
Absolutely.
Elon Musk's hands,
And I think that's really-
let's let him take humanity to become a multiplanetary, species. But there's nothing wrong with, it's like it reminds me of this interview with Bill Gates. He was being interviewed about taxes, and he was talking about that, like he's paid more taxes than anyone, like literally anyone. He'd paid like $10 billion in taxes, and the interviewer was asking him, what his thoughts were on the taxation, and he thinks like he was saying that he thinks taxation should be more fair, and like people making capital gains, for example, should pay similar to normal income tax. That one just makes the most amount of sense. And he's like, if I paid 20 billion instead of 10 billion, that'd be fine. It's like it wouldn't have impacted my life in any way, and I'd still have plenty of money to do whatever. But there's people who think I shouldn't exist, and that's what I have a problem with, right? Or that all of it. They want to take all of it, and I think that there's a huge gap between taxing them appropriately or taxing the rich or wealthy appropriately.
I mean,
versus,
to dig into that a tiny little bit, as a core thesis, should a billionaire exist? And the answer is probably not.
that's your answer.
Yeah.
Why?
Because why on earth is it better for society for one person to have accumulated $1,000 million? If you look
it's
at
a ridiculous amount of money.
those
I don't
diagrams
disagree
of
with
the
that.
amount of money it would take for, what people don't get is how many orders of magnitude that is from
Okay.
$1 million.
Okay, I want to be, but just besides the fact that it's a lot of money and wealth, and like as a result, power, and potentially for many generations for that, what is the counter argument to that, Bob?
A person with
Man,
money.
all kinds of thoughts on this one.
Yeah, he's a billionaire.
But
at
not
the
$1 billion.
table.
You don't have $1 billion. To my knowledge, if you do, we're
is
going to
the
make
billion
much better.
where the
friends.
problem is, or is it 100 million, or
Sure.
what?
You can
what
make the
difference
slippery
does it make?
slope argument, but go ahead.
Okay, conceptually, I have a problem with this. So, people become entrepreneurs. They make a lot of money. They're making a difference in the world. Some make a lot of money because of that. They're adding value to the world. Or you work for a company, you improve yourself, you get a raise, you get a promotion, you make more money. So most people are interested in making more money. But why does there come a point when you've made a certain amount of money, now you're a bad person? Now you're a one percenter. You're a bad person, you're not paying your share, you're not doing this, not doing that, when most everybody wants to be that. So philosophically, it doesn't feel right. I have no issue with a billionaire paying more money, a millionaire paying more money, a higher capital gain. Like, I don't care about that. It's the way people feel and think about it, think about those individuals, because they're not bad people.
Right.
Some might be bad people, some might be great people. Some might
They're no
be
different than
philanthropists.
any average person.
We're just going through a cycle
Right.
of
Yeah.
billionaire backlash, right? We
Right.
just had
Yeah.
like a billionaire that was the president, and everybody hates that guy. I guess you're right.
At least half the people.
I do. I
50% love him.
I despise him with a passion, and so I understand why people dislike billionaires right now. But historically, we've generally celebrated billionaires, and we'll just probably swing back and forth, right? I agree with you that people should kind of like not hate billionaires because they're basically fine and awesome usually.
I can solve that problem by taxing them out of existence and still not demonizing them. You can have both. You can think they're nice people and then tax them back down to a reasonable level of wealth.
But you're not taxing them. You could tax them out of existence, but then what you're doing is also taxing millionaires out of existence. It's just like it's like every,
Not if you set the level at $1 billion, Mike.
Beg your pardon?
So not if you set the threshold at $1 billion.
Well, why would you
Like-
set it at this arbitrary?
Like
Again,
you're saying,
it's
like,
it's just a round
tax
number. Like what?
100% of everything over $1 billion
Sure,
or something.
right?
But
Super
here's the
arbitrary,
thing:
though.
like, if your company, for example, tomorrow became worth $1 billion and you haven't sold it, do you fall into that category of $1 billion?
So that comes back to the unrealized gains
Right,
conversation,
right.
which is
So-
fascinating.
Yeah, and then
Well,
then
that's
you could-
100% of billionaires that matter.
basically. Yeah.
Like,
And
okay,
the other-
nobody's talking about like the billionaires that like randomly have cash laying around. Everyone's talking about the billionaires that built a company and
haven't sold it.
have equity in that thing that they built. That's 100% of everybody that's talking about anything. And if you basically said today, Mike, your company's worth, I don't know, $50 million.
And we get to
I'm
say
going to
30%
randomly tell you that it's worth $50 million because I came up with that number. And I'm going to tax you 2% of that. And I'd be like, fuck you. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be fuck you. I'd be like, fine, here's my $1 million. But I'd also be like, what the fuck? I just have to fire people now.
Right.
Or whatever. Or I have to like sell my beach house. You know,
So right there's the crux of it, isn't it? Like, well, like either
I mean,
preserve
no,
my
I'm not going to say
margins,
fuck you, but like, but the
or-
point is that you do it at, but if you do that, it becomes extremely impractical because you're then taking money out of something that is an abstract concept. Oh, it's got this this business has some hypothetical value that we come up with. Well,
There's
we're
the-
already doing that with income and like, is the business more profitable or less profitable? Well, we're taxing profits.
Yeah.
That's what we do. You know?
I think that there's like practical, pragmatic solutions to all of this, and that they are that like the billionaires are not villains, right? Like especially like picking this guy in particular, Elon Musk, who's doing more for climate change and more for like humanity in general with multiplanetary, trying to get humanity to multiplanetaries, so that humanity can survive a major Earth impact or something like that. I mean, they're picking the wrong guy to make a villain, for sure. But taxation can potentially allow much higher taxes as your income level sort of goes up. And the property tax example might be a fairly easy way to solve if you never sell and you just sort of, because that's the other thing that happens. If you have a publicly traded company, you can take margin off of that and just live off the margin for the rest of your life, and you never pay taxes on it, and you put it in trusts and pass it to your kids or whatever. So the taxes never come from those hundreds of billions, potentially for billionaires. So,
but I think you'd have a big problem if you'd started doing this whole unrealized gains thing on like basically small businesses, what amounts to a small business.
if you're not a publicly traded company, it would be difficult.
But then, okay, then the challenge becomes, it's not even a challenge. It's not even hard. You know how it would work is you just take everything and you put it into an LLC and then you're good to go. Like, so all of your ownership and all that stuff winds up in a small business, and that's what everybody does anyway. There's always
There needs to be no loopholes type of thing.
There's not going to be no loopholes. That's just not how the world works. There's always like loopholes.
Because of politicians being bought by.
No, it's just because everybody knows how to work with money. When when you're rich, you know how to work with money because you're rich, because you.
Yeah, and you're the one who's
you know how to
paying
work
the
with money.
politicians,
We all know how to work with money because and it's an imbalance. But when you make a profit, you can get taxed on it, and everything works. I mean, broadly, you can just tax that amount more. Just do it more. Just charge.
That's the other thing.
Charge 75% tax. It's fine.
Or at least charge regular income. This is the part that makes zero sense to, like, I think someone who's being fair and impartial is that if you make your money off of investments, as long as you hold those investments for more than a year, you only pay 20%. Mm-hmm. But if Bob's making the same amount of money,
it's below the whatever 400.
I mean, and a
but
state tax,
let's
right?
just say let's pick the 20% for now. But if Bob is making the exact same amount of money, but as a salary working for a company, and you're not even working, you're sort of surfing because you make investments. You don't do anything when you make an investment. You're taxed at 20%. He's taxed at 37 or 39 or whatever, and that just makes zero sense. Both of those should be equal. Right, like,
I mean, I don't really actually know for sure. On that, I don't really know. I think
Okay.
there might be like some reason to have the capital gains difference.
Yeah, so people get richer.
I don't know for sure.
The reason is so that they're sort of encouraging long-term capital gains for like holding your investments longer. Therefore, people who have investments, their value goes up quickly. But from an income tax perspective, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we can move off taxes pretty soon here, but
Yeah,
real quick,
let's move on. Okay, we have other topics, great topics to talk about anyway. The metaverse with Facebook and just
Chuckle.
go ahead. What is your idea? Okay, so here's the question I want to broadly ask. Are you afraid where we're going with the metaverse and this sort of like
So
living in virtual
environments.
living in virtual reality and spending so much of our time and resources and brain power building this world that doesn't really exist, right? Is there any concern there? Because one of my concerns is that as the new generation's brain power is spending more time in this metaverse, if they cure cancer in the metaverse, it doesn't actually cure cancer in the real world, you know? So you can make rocket ships in the metaverse, it doesn't make rocket ships in the real world, and that's my problem.
we talked about this on when we did the podcast, which is that we are dedicating too much of our brain power towards folly or towards entertainment or towards something that doesn't have a practical
As a
humanitarian sort of output of any
Right.
sort of real result.
at scale for humanity is doing that.
Right.
At
Unless you
scale.
consider having a bunch of drones in the Matrix that you could get energy off of and they don't have to worry about anything net positive, I guess. Like that's the most
So
productive
you
way.
can't, you can't stop it, right? It's happening. It's going to happen. Cryptocurrencies, it's happening. NFTs, it's happening, right? You're not going to stop it. There's enough momentum there.
Explain NFTs to me. I mean, like,
Wait.
We'll get to
okay,
NFTs.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You don't want to do that yet, do you?
I'm
We
sure
save
Mike's
that
got
one
some
for-
thoughts
No,
on
no,
that.
no. I don't have any thoughts on that. But
Okay, so
It's happening.
it's happening.
Yes.
So the question is there going to be a way, and just like if you think about, if you have a son, a daughter, some young person in your life who's on their phone constantly, it's a battle. It's a daily battle. You?
Yeah, I'm on my phone literally constantly.
Okay.
well, yeah, this would be my argument: is that we're already in the metaverse, and like we all like spent the last 2 years basically living in Zoom, right? So
Yeah, so the question is there a way to find a balance? And we all know people that are addicted to social media. They're out of balance. And if you have a true virtual environment, are you going to have that same problem? Yes, you'll have that same problem. You'll have people already today, right? You'll have that problem where people are spending too much time in this virtual world. And what is the long-term impact of that? Well, we don't know the long-term impact of our kids being on their phones constantly yet. We're going to see what that looks like in 10, 20, 30 years.
Right.
And my guess is it's not going to be good. But one thing I do think is going to happen, I'm not sure when, is a backlash. A backlash against this movement of constantly being on the
Yeah.
phone, constantly being on social media, everything being virtual, moving away from face-to-face, that sort of thing. And there probably is, various movements going on to kind of get back to the way we were. I sound really old.
I feel like my parents were on this panel
Yeah.
in the 80s saying the same thing. They're like, this internet.
Just a little bit closer to.
Like they didn't even know the internet. They're
It's
like
going to be
the
big.
BBSs and the TVs and the video games. You know,
So
like
the point is you can't stop it, so how do we live with it? How
Right.
do we find balance and live with it?
I mean, and to your point, look, we've had Second Life and World of Warcraft as these proto metaverses that have existed for 20 years now,
androids. We're literally,
and we're already
Yeah.
you know,
doing that side of it. It's funny because I feel like I had this personal, like two roads diverged in a Yellowwood moment of like, do I become an MMO person or not? Because I liked gaming growing up, and I was on PC games my whole life, and I never
MMO,
made
massively
massive multiplayer online,
multiplayer.
like RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Like World of Warcraft.
RPG being role playing or
Role-playing
role-playing
games, right? And it's a form of escapism, and it's a form of that feeds certain dopamine receptor things that where it's this flywheel effect that creates that addiction. And for whatever reason, it never appealed to me, and I didn't go down that path. And I really wonder if I would have, how bad it would have been if I had. Like, and I'm glad I didn't, because I've watched friends spend dozens of hours on World of Warcraft, and it's like,
can you imagine how awesome your like mounts would be though?
So,
I don't
so,
know.
Farm's
so
gold.
in this
I
world,
only- I've never
there's
played.
a generation of people who are like growing up with that world, and in that generation, there's people who are valuing a picture of a monkey for $300,000 and or millions in some cases, or a tweet for millions of dollars as an
Not valuing
NFT. So
the picture,
please
they're not
tell
valuing
me,
the
tell me
tweet.
what are they?
They're valuing a link to the picture or the tweet and their ability to stamp their name on the link first. That's it. That's all it is. It's a card catalog at the library. Remember those? Where you'd put your name on the card. And
Are we talking, is that your segue to NFTs now?
It's NFTs. He
Because-
brought it to
Yeah.
NFTs. It was
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to happen, which is one of the stupidest things ever in its current manifestation.
Wait. There's some cool things that are happening.
There are very cool things that are possible with NFTs. The current
No, there's a couple of things that are happening.
Stupid.
So,
It's ridiculous.
so like supplanting
closer.
Ticketmaster.
Okay.
Supplanting
Yeah.
Ticketmaster, so you got ticketing.
Sure.
And then,
Wait,
and-
is that literally happening? or-
yeah. So
Okay.
an
Using
NFT would be a
NFTs?
ticket. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, why do you
That's a
need
cool
NFTs
use.
to do that?
You could print tickets. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you
you
have barcode. I don't know, dude.
Like,
I'm not like an expert.
What the fuck? I
I'm
mean,
just
like,
telling you
can
that.
do that
I'm just
with
telling you that, like, yeah, the
Ticketmaster
the
and
straw
all of
man
their
argument-
competitors can do that too without NFTs.
Where you're verging is dangerously close to. Isn't blockchain the same as a database and just distributed trust versus,
Right. I mean, you're
centralized
buying that
trust?
ticket from somewhere, so
But
like
then
whether or not
the other
it's
one
in
that's
the
maybe cool
blockchain.
is Spotify, replacing Spotify, and basically making it so that you can list your songs and stuff like that in a streaming service, and then you basically have their NFTs, and you sort of get paid for them
But so
as they stream.
Curiously, you don't actually need NFTs to do that part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
One of my friends runs a. Well, then what's the point?
I mean,
back to Hamid's point.
Because people like it, and then it makes I don't know.
No, it's because people want a speculative gold rush that they think that they can pile
It's a
on.
speculative gold
The
rush.
underlying technology, the underlying concept of having something that's an indelible ledger that can continue to iterate is neat, and there's going to be some really practical ramifications for that. But like one of my friends runs a Lightning network that allows you to pay per minute you stream an audio file, and it goes right to the artists. It doesn't need to be an NFT that
Right.
controls the smart contract about who
it's,
gets paid.
It's like
honestly-
DeFi, but for artists, right? So that's so it's decentralized finance. Like okay, so the idea of decentralized finance. I'm not an expert. I mean, I am probably technologically elite. I am technologically elite, but
You understand the concepts.
Okay, but but the idea of DeFi from a consumer perspective is that you can have all of your wallet. You don't need a bank, right?
Right.
So all
That
of
I
it-
get, actually.
Like you basically,
I mean,
you have
there's
like
actual value there.
a card, or even if you don't have a card, right? But hypothetically,
Like
you-
Bitcoin, essentially.
yeah, but it's all just you have it.
Right.
It's taken care of. So if you think of the DeFi, but for artists and the whole streaming thing, so you don't need that actual, the central entity, then that's kind of like, or you still need the central entity, but you basically
But I feel like that's not what's happening here.
Right.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
point.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
at
what they
least-
say is happening, which
That's
is
something that
better than
could
just
happen.
selling, a picture of a picture as a link,
But
would
for
you-
300, I mean, like for hundreds of thousands of dollars, this is what makes no sense. I was watching
Well, it's just owning a
Ozark.
copyright.
It's not even.
So
The NFT is not the copyright most times. Most people, when you're purchasing the NFT, it's literally the linked mint that you purchase.
Well,
It's not the copyright.
It's absolute
It doesn't
insanity.
connote the
So like
copyright with it.
in Ozark, this show on Netflix or whatever, the guy is needs to launder $8 million, and I was thinking like, holy shit, NFT would have solved this problem. In
There's a lot of
10
speculation
minutes,
that that's
right?
a lot of what's
Like-
going on.
So is it possible that that's what the main use of NFTs are? And there's like people who are caught up in the FOMO and like
Yes.
this generation that has so believed and invested in the metaverse that are like, I don't want to lose out on that. They just sold a whatever thing for $1 million. But really it's like some guy who is laundering money for buying the thing from himself.
To Mike's point with Ticketmaster, so there's a goofy part of it,
Right.
the monkey pictures, there's a goofy part of it, but there's a commercial part of it that brands are paying attention to, and this is what Mike is talking about. So think about it. You have a band
Okay.
that's on tour, and the way you get to go to the concert is you buy one of their NFTs.
Okay.
If you buy a ticket, you're done with the ticket, right? You don't use it again.
Right.
If you buy an NFT, you continue to own it over time. So there may be some value in that. But also for that band, you can now collect other NFTs for that band. So now you have a collection of concert tickets, other types of things that the band might sell because you're a fan of that band. So
So
that's
like
a
for the
kind of a
artists,
commercial,
essentially.
yeah. So that's a commercial use of it, for
And
example.
perhaps it goes into your wallet and you do the whole whatever.
Yeah, but then you could also, if you have that ticket from a year ago, it might be valuable to somebody else.
Right.
So
In the
you can
same way
make
that if you
money on
have a ticket stub to, a concert from the Beatles 50 years ago, you could probably sell it on eBay for some amount of money.
All right. While we're on the subject of sort of like crypto and blockchain and NFTs, let's bring it to Bitcoin real quick and power consumption. Any concern about power consumption of Bitcoin?
I mean, we're just going to get rid of Tuvalu and not have certain coasts, and everybody's going to have to move inland. But at least we have 21 million Bitcoin to mine. Like, we're one step away here. It's going to be pretty sweet. 1 terawatt hour of energy right now per month or something crazy. Something like 57 days of a single household's energy use for a single Bitcoin transaction. Holy fuck.
57 days.
Of a single household's power consumption.
It's got to be way more than that. Like just like a couple of servers.
per
that I
transaction,
have.
not per
transaction.
block.
There's
Oh,
roughly a half a million
transaction,
transactions.
which is
yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. To mine one,
No.
it's got to be like it's
different
got to be
setup.
like a small city for a few days. I mean, like a few like 10,000 houses, I would guess.
My Bitcoin maxer friends like, well, we'll just capture the energy off the flares off of the oil fields, and I'm like, it's not solving the right
But
problem.
don't you think they'll solve that problem?
I
Yeah, they
think
have.
that problem can
Yeah.
get solved.
No.
Yeah. It's
Not-
proof of stake.
Oh, well,
Yeah, but that's not
That's not
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, fuck
will-
Bitcoin. Bitcoin's dead.
That's not.
Well, just transfer everything.
You heard it
into
here first,
Yeah.
guys.
Ethereum.
Bitcoin is dead.
No, hold on to it for a while, but Bitcoin's basically, it's not going to be where people do transactions. It's actually probably, in a weird way, should die because...
It's not going to die. Bitcoin
no.
is the sort of like legit one, and
yeah.
the rest of them are created by people who were
Ethereum
copied.
is pretty damn legit, I think. If you don't own Ethereum...
What you
then-
mean as like a form of currency that people are using every day to pay for things? It doesn't work well for that.
It's never. It's
I mean,
never
I think
going
that
to.
Ethereum
Well,
is
with
maybe
Light-
equivalent to Bitcoin
with
in
the
terms
Lightning
of
Network, though, it could
close.
potentially.
Right. So with Lightning, you get yourself closer because you don't incur the tremendous limitations of what the blockchain can actually accomplish on chain, and you don't, you're not limited by just the fees and what we're going to run up against there, and the bandwidth. There's only, I think it's 7,000 transactions a second. It's the hard cap for.
But Litecoin sort of solves that, and it sits on
Lightning.
top of Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin transactions, or not Litecoin. What am I saying? Lightning.
Lightning
Thank you.
Network.
Go ahead.
Any of the level
no,
twos.
nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's
But there's a lot of utility to Bitcoin, which is kind of interesting. I mean, like being able to send money without any kind of going through any hassle to anyone you want, essentially, sending some amount of value.
It's
It's like,
fantastic for drug dealers
but not just that, though.
Why do
Like,
you think the average person buys Bitcoin?
as a speculative
It's
investment.
not. It's probably not for what you're saying, but why do you think they buy it?
Yeah, I
a
think it's a
speculative
hedge against, inflation too, right? Like it's sort of like similar reasons to why anybody would buy just gold, right?
hedge
It's
against
back
the
to store of
collapse
value.
Store of value,
the
right?
the current world order.
Say again.
Hedge against the collapse of the current world order.
Yeah, no, literally. That I mean, if that were to happen,
Let me tell you,
Bitcoin
how hard it is
will
to spend
survive.
Bitcoin.
Hedge against the
Let me
U.S.
tell you how
dollar.
hard it is to
One
spend Bitcoin if
currency.
you don't have electricity, though, right?
Well, I mean, if you don't have electricity, it might be fine still because you can get to somewhere that does. We're not talking post-apocalyptic.
Felt like we might be.
Well, no, I'm
The
just
collapse
saying
of the
that-
current world order, but don't worry, we'll have internet and electricity to be able to spend this.
So you're
I'm just-
in any other country
You know,
that where like half the world's countries, their money is not stable, right? Like it's kind of crazy. So if you're living in one of those countries, does it make
Nicaragua.
sense? Say again.
Said Nicaragua.
Yeah, there you go. So like, does it make sense to convert your money into Bitcoin or gold or whatever? And it does. And instead of gold, Bitcoin is a lot more practical because you don't have to lug it around. If you have like 5 pounds of gold, you can't like travel with it,
Oh,
Well-
speaking of which, though, not,
Go
like diamonds.
Yeah, you can't
Just
travel
get a
with
bunch
it.
of diamonds. You can stuff those. The cool thing about diamonds is that, like, okay, like, no, just
I
saying. I'm
don't
just saying,
wanna know
if
where-
you have to
where
flee
you were
the
gonna go
country
with where you're gonna
and you
stuff
strap cash to yourself, you can't. But you can carry
How many
diamonds.
diamonds are you putting in a condom and eating, Mike?
No, you don't have to put them in a condom. You can put them anywhere because they're harder than anything. So you could actually eat all your diamonds.
How much have
and then
you
you're
thought
gonna
this
poop them
out?
out. It is like no, diamonds are great, dude. You gotta get some diamonds just so that you can.
I don't think
so
I
that when
do.
you flee, when you have to flee, you can carry
Also-
everything in your bowels.
I'm not sure diamond has universal value in every
it doesn't
country.
have to have universal value. It just has to be a store of value.
Yeah, but like
somebody.
what you pay for it and what you get out of it in another country might be
It's gonna be
significantly.
pretty close. It's gonna be pretty close.
He believes in the diamond standard.
I'm
so
going to go with Bitcoin.
If
on
you
that.
have to get across the border, because you're gonna be a refugee, eat some diamonds.
Bob, how much
Buy
Bitcoin, do you
Bitcoin.
have?
Well,
Oh, that's a very personal question. But
More than zero?
6.5 coins.
So you have some.
something like that.
Ah, you're going with the exact number.
I like it. Yeah.
All right.
So not many.
I'm going to follow him in the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be better if you had some Bitcoin sewn into your
You should have
abdomen.
not said anything. Because now I'm going to be like,
you have more. But do you think it is truly a stable?
well,
currency?
I mean,
It has the
thing
name,
is
stablecoin.
nothing is
It's not a
stable.
stable coin. It's explicitly not a stable coin.
No,
Stable
no.
coin is a phrase used
Tied
for
to the dollar.
being pegged to the dollar. It is,
Right.
Bitcoin is a very volatile coin.
Right.
So
The
there are no
volatility
stable
is a
coins
feature.
currently.
No,
of
US dollar
Bitcoin.
tender tries to be, but it's backed by wishes and dreams, so who knows? But that's what it's attempting to be.
Yeah.
US dollar coin, the tender, rather.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not intended to be stable. But I do think, like if we were to fast forward 10 years, 20 years from now, is Bitcoin going to be worth more than it is today? My bet would be hell yeah. Whereas the dollar would be worth way less than its purchasing power would be way less than it is
Well,
today.
we were talking about this earlier, attention. There's a lot of attention being paid. You hear the word Bitcoin a lot. People that don't know anything about Bitcoin, like my mom, might use the word Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? I try to explain it.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Yeah.
So attention matters.
Yeah.
And it feels like the level of attention is increasing. The ETF came out. Like there's a lot more companies that are becoming more comfortable with Bitcoin. And I don't think that's going to change.
It's only going to increase.
It's only going to increase.
And investment opportunities for the like various different institutions is going to increase. So price is likely going to go up long term.
Yeah, and so
Short term, it's obviously volatile. You can't know what it's
right,
gonna be.
and so as more of that happens, we get farther and farther away from what is it? It isn't anything. It isn't worth anything. Like that conversation will become less and less and less.
Right.
It's similar to Twitter. In the beginning, people are like, 140 characters, what?
Oh,
what
right.
do you do with this thing? And then
They
after
don't
a
get it.
while, yeah, then after a while, oh. And I think that's the same with NFTs.
Why do I feel like you're like the wisdom guy on this?
I'm
like,
old.
That is helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Pattern recognition and age.
Yes.
Yeah.
So NFTs are a couple years old.
It's really difficult to be wise and not old.
Yes.
I'll take care of that problem. All right. So
So my mom is going to be asking me about NFTs in about a year.
yeah.
Can I buy one?
That's the
That's when
sign
you
that
say
it's
no.
time to pull out, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
When your mom's like, hey, what about these animated
this-
GIFs that I need to...
This happened,
Oh, yeah.
so prior to the dot-com explosion, when everything was like peaking, sure enough, my mom, how can I buy some of these dot-com stuff?
That's
I'm like,
.com?
oh my God, gotta get out now.
All right. Should we move on to another topic?
Sure.
All
You're
right.
the host.
So first of all, are all of your or both of your companies employees remote work? No,
Fully.
fully remote.
I mean, not necessarily forever, but basically forever. I mean, not forever, but kind of like it's never going to be the same, right?
okay, but like, are you hiring people out of state now as a result of
Yes.
that, or you are?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have people
You
now in 8
completely
states.
embrace.
So, but I've still got the office and have a few people come in. I think I'll always keep some office, but right now most everybody's working from home.
So that's completely changed the world as far as that's concerned. Is it you
We're in the
feel it the
metaverse.
same way? Yeah. We're all working in the metaverse now. AI and machine learning. We have AI driving cars now with Teslas and Waymo and Cruise. And what do you guys think about that?
Did you get it? Did you ever get your safety score? Did anybody have their safety score?
The Tesla drivers?
Yeah. Does anybody have
I can't get better than a 93 because I'll go like 99, 98, and then I'll do something stupid and I'll get like 65.
I opted not to pay 10 grand for being a beta tester, so I don't have FSD.
There's features in it that
Uh-huh.
are sort of interesting.
So, okay, so why do you guys think it's taking longer than anybody thought it would take?
Because the edge
It's a
cases
hard
kill
problem.
people.
Lots of edge
The
cases.
what
Full
kill?
stop. The edge cases kill people, and there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're
millions.
when you're looking at literally millions of cases, like it was one of the, if you watched AI Day when they first talked about it,
Yeah, I was there.
The pattern, oh, look at you, the pattern recognition around stuff is, within a context of the bell curve of most of what we're looking at is a car behind another car. It's very easy to recognize a car in front of you. It's a lot harder when that car is upside down or when the car is on its side. And that happens. It doesn't happen often. The last time I saw a car on its side was, I don't know, several months ago, right? But if your car, which is supposed to be working without you touching it, doesn't know that a car can be on its side, and you may run into that, well, then you run into it. So those edge cases are brutal, and there's an absurd amount of them. And so building, they built the auto annotation engine to try to absolve some
It's
of those
getting
issues.
close though. So, it's not as close as Elon Musk says, but
No,
just to be
nothing
clear.
ever is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his optimism on time in particular is like not connected with reality, but it is getting pretty close, and it will be a solved problem in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years maximum.
Yeah.
So we need to get like an NFT of what you just said. So that we can
I'll sell
track
it
it
to
in the
you
future
for $250,000.
Yeah.
It'll be sats. It won't be dollars by then. We'll just be trading
Yeah.
sats directly.
So would you get into a car that was self-driving?
I'd get into a
with you-
Waymo
with you
right
in the
now.
back seat.
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, because they're approaching the problem differently. Tesla's a little run and gun, and that'll probably end in tears for somebody.
Waymo is geofenced to just Chandler, basically.
Well,
is what it comes down to.
but the specific difference is that they're geofenced to paths they have traveled before.
Right.
And that's a huge difference in the problem
Right.
size. So if you take the problem size of all roads in all of the country or all of the planet that we've never seen before versus these 6 roads that we know really well,
Yeah.
it's a much
So
better
that's why you would
problem
be
solve.
All right.
getting
So
into
wait.
Waymo,
I would
not
get
because
into
they're
anything.
technology.
Like I would ride on the back of a motorcycle that
Yeah,
that Hamid's driving,
chasing
right? Like that's
volcanoes.
Oh, that's
dangerous,
crazy.
right?
That's
like,
crazy.
But
But you also
like,
surf with sharks.
What
so here
would
we
you
are.
put your kids or your family in it?
Right.
Yeah.
In Waymo, I would. I wouldn't do it in
Really?
a Tesla FSD right now, but that's because it's openly alpha. Well,
Yeah,
beta.
I mean, they know that like you have to take over. You have to be a driver that's taking over. But what are your long-term thoughts about AI and machine learning in
I've
general?
talked about just on the car side of it. I've talked about with my wife. I thought it was interesting this speculation of will my 4-year-old daughter ever get a driver's license? Will she ever have to drive a car
Right.
herself or ride in a car driven by a human? That's I mean, we're talking at this point 12 years away.
It's unlikely.
So
But
probably
at some
unlikely.
point, yes.
Oh no, I'm saying I don't know if 12 years from now there's a decent chance you have an Uber you get into that drives itself or Waymo's everywhere and there are
Right.
Teslas or whatever. I think that's really compelling and very interesting that we might be on the cusp there. I don't think it's 5 years. I think it's closer to that 10 to
10-year
15 where it becomes that saturation. But we're not going to stop trying to solve that problem because it's a huge problem.
Right.
Transportation and costs and
And
co-ownership of
40,000 people
vehicles and things
dying
like
in
that.
the U.S. from car
Yeah, but it's more
accidents.
than that. It's fractional ownership of cars. Why do we
Yeah.
have all these cars sitting out here right now doing
That's right.
nothing?
That's right.
That's the single biggest, way to think about
There's
it.
both a financial reason and a human cost reason.
I think it's hard, a lot harder than, I mean, like the last mile is really difficult. I mean, there's a lot of weird things
Yeah.
that we're just good at. Like
The
just
last mile
identify-
is why it's taken, as long
it's
as
the
it has.
education.
I don't even think that they're looking very far ahead, to be honest with you. They're looking in the sort of range, but as a person that drives, like kind of an expert driver, you get in some car accidents or run over some children or whatever early in your, that in your days. But, like eventually you sort of figure out how to like not run off the road and but the whole thing is that you just, you have a certain amount of wisdom about
You have instinct you
what's-
developed.
Yeah, but but you're like kind of like looking like even way more ahead than the car. I know what the car is doing. It's
Yeah.
keeping inside of a lane, and it's like I know what it's doing, and it's useful when you're on like on the highway.
Right.
It removes a lot of strain, and I can just sit there and kind of plan ahead for the car, and I think it's a very
But
useful
on the
feature.
highway, literally, my car already drives 99% of my highway time.
For sure.
Maybe even
and
more.
if it almost seems like some kind of futuristic movie where the car you take the car to the freeway and then it gets you to the exit. That's great. That's
It
a
is kinda
massive.
crazy.
That's a huge leap. If what we said was self-driving is going to be get yourself to the freeway
And then we'll do
then the car does the rest.
All the way to the
That's
exit.
everything. That's everything that I would have ever dreamed would ever happen in my lifetime.
10 years ago.
At this point, yeah, and it's already, whenever they did whenever they got that first version out,
Yeah.
Uh,
No, 10 years ago, that's what you would have thought was a dream. Whereas now you're like, holy cow, they might actually get the
Well,
rest
I mean,
of it
we've
too.
been talking about self-driving for more than 10 years, probably 20 years. Everyone's like, it's just around the corner.
Right.
I swear to God, right? Like
Yeah.
like 2003, everyone's like,
But that's sort of like what machine learning in general, or like computer vision was like in the 90s, early 2000s. People were like, it's right around the corner. And then it eventually came. And now like Google Photos can recognize people in my pictures
But
that
this is like a
I didn't even know they
2015
were in the picture. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know they were at the party. And it's like
Yeah.
this fuzzy little thing in the background. And Google Photos like, there's that guy.
But it was
Like zooming in to try to see like how, and the person is on the side and it's like out of focus. And it's like, how does Google know this is so-and-so?
So
you know?
what's interesting about that is what you're referring to is this idea of like there's been computer vision in some form or another for 50 years, right?
Right.
If you
Well,
call
not-
it
maybe not 50, but yeah,
call it a
whatever.
two-dimensional barcode as a form of computer vision. So
Okay.
yeah, and we tried to take it to this extreme, and we didn't get there until we were able to layer on machine learning and build this other completely revolutionary technology that's like, oh
Right.
shit, this lets us uncork all of this possibility.
Right.
And that's the kind of really interesting thing. It's like the initial idea computer can see, which is mind-blowing once you start to realize how it actually works, is difficult and interesting and challenging enough. But what it really takes to get to this next level is that you have to fuse it with a completely new revolutionary technology.
Right.
And that machine learning's that. And
But this
it's
is what humans do.
fascinating.
Right? Humans solve problems.
Right.
And what's happening with autonomous vehicles is the same way we go about learning something new. Make a mistake. Oh, okay, I got to do it differently. Go a little farther. Make a mistake. Oh, got to fix that. That's the way we learn new things, and that's exactly what's happening with autonomous vehicles. We're making mistakes and fixing and fixing and fixing. And I mean, if you look in history, anything that humans have set their mind to seriously, a lot of people, a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of money, they've eventually solved that problem. And there's a million things that are in process right now, a problem we're trying to solve, but there's so many problems we solved because of that. And so the autonomous vehicle thing is just one of those. It's taken a little bit longer than we thought, but we'll solve the problem.
Plus, it's a
Problems.
trillion dollar problem to solve, right? Like whoever solves it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of
it's
incentive.
already a $1 trillion company.
Yeah, Tesla is.
But this computer vision and as it relates to images and video, there was a long period of time where you had like kind of like a, 20% year-over-year growth, and then in 2013 approximately, there's a pretty significant breakthrough, right? And that's when you started to see a lot of this stuff.
The neural net stuff.
With, yeah,
That
yeah.
was
There's
the
a
addition of the
specific
machine learning.
strategy,
Yeah.
a specific subset of strategy, right? And
Which created a leap.
which created a massive leap, like
Right.
a 500x leap
Right.
in quality. And but since that time, we are back to sort of like this 20%,
Small steps.
yeah, small steps, 20% year over year kind of growth. Recently, in like 2019, we had like this sort of big breakthrough, maybe 2018, with BERT and GPT, and so NLP and all of that, all of those advances now. So you got like, so I was talking to somebody here tonight about like, content generation using GPT. This is like a pretty significant improvement in NLP, and that's kind of like
Yeah.
on the same scale as that.
All right. Final topic for the night: space. What are your thoughts on? I got a
The
little
final
chuckle over here.
frontier.
The final frontier. What do you guys think about human space exploration as well as scientific space explorations? What SpaceX is doing, what Dragon is doing, what they're trying to do with Starship?
They just docked 20 minutes ago.
Yeah?
The ISS, the new Dragon capsule.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. And that's their what, fifth? Fourth or
And
fifth?
this one they fixed the
I think
toilet on, so there's not a
Inspiration
bunch of piss
4.
floating around in the capsule. So that's a win. It's a win for everybody. The poor guys who just landed, they had to wear diapers on their way down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Whoops.
crazy.
Should you
Move
wear a
fast
diaper
and
anyway?
move fast and
on the way
break things
down?
should never refer to the toilet. Just it really shouldn't. They were saying how great it was that it was contained under the bottom panel, so it wasn't just a party in there.
I
It
feel
gets
like it
shit
wouldn't be
hits
that big
the
of a
fan.
deal to like not use the bathroom in space.
It was only 8
Like
hours.
it's like, yeah, how long you really have to deal with this? It's like, come on, guys.
gonna hold it.
Are we adults here? Squeeze your butt cheeks together. You're good to
just
go.
like a man. Come on.
Are there pills for that or
I
something? I don't
mean,
know.
how much are you
But-
eating up there for Christ's sake? Like,
All right, what are you? let's bring it back to human space exploration, getting people on Mars, getting a sort of like backup plan, if you will, self-sustaining.
I have a bit of a controversial angle to talk about on that.
Okay, go for it.
There's a lot of people that look at this and say, why don't we spend all that money on fixing our problems on Earth first?
We did that already.
It didn't work.
No, we solved all of them.
Oh, we did. Okay.
self-driving cars.
Versus trying to colonize Mars or
Yeah, but this is an
creating
argument that I
another
hear all the time. It's
commercial
like
space
when,
station.
do we stop working on our problems on Earth? We never stopped doing that. So like it's an ongoing thing, and anyone who thinks otherwise seems like is not thinking.
The real
about
angle
it.
that you come into is the same people who didn't want to go to the moon, who don't understand how return on investment worked, which is how much technology trickled down from our efforts to get to the moon quickly.
Yes.
And it's
Right.
like, well,
That's
that's where
meaningful.
transistors came from. I mean, by
That's
way
meaningful.
of a couple of other things. That's where Velcro
Satellites,
comes from. That's where
GPS.
these other things come from.
Yeah.
That being said, I am
Communication.
not team let's go to Mars as a colonizing, terraforming. It's just not that, the terraforming part's not really going to be practical. Like,
Who cares? I mean, like
But
at some
just-
point we gotta try to have.
oh,
like, a
I'm all
second-
about send somebody to Mars. I love that. I think that, again, having to figure out how to solve the problems of getting somebody to survive the 3-year journey, getting people to land there, there's stuff we will get out of
Do you
that.
think Earth-
Elon's megalomaniacal ambition to use it as a backup Earth is lunacy.
Why?
Because you can't terraform the planet. It's going to suck. Have you
but
been to
why not,
Mars?
though?
It fucking
No, no.
sucks.
Like he knows that, but forget about Elon's thoughts on this. But my question to you is like, what happens if there's an extinction type
Then we
event?
die. I
And
mean-
you're perfectly fine with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, but what
We
if
had a good
I'm
run.
not? Like, I
Where's the
want
hubris that we deserve to live forever coming from?
Well, I want humanity or life to continue to
Well,
exist
someone
beyond
else who
like
figures it out. But
well,
then-
if we
I
kill
mean-
ourselves, though, then that's kind of like, I don't know.
a
That's
logical
like,
conclusion.
we will,
yeah,
eventually.
But I mean, like, I'm back to this idea that
It seems like there's another path, though.
we're so
Right.
far away from terraforming Mars. Building an ark that
well,
allows us to live up in space, we've already done that.
Are
Congratulations.
we closer to
Not really,
terraforming Mars or
Saving-
self-driving
saving Earth?
AI? I mean, like, honest to God, how do you even know? Like,
without trying.
I mean,
Without
because
trying, like
if we build the self-driving cars, then clearly then the shit will just terraform
How
itself.
do you know without trying
Right?
is that there's basic math. Like the amount of atmosphere on Mars, the amount of gravity on Mars don't support us terraforming it in any sort of convenient way to have sustainable human life on the planet.
That's kind of like trying to say before the like invention of rockets or whatever. It's like impossible for us to like think about going to space or putting things into orbit. Like until we
You're
try to
accusing
solve
me of
some
a
of
lack
these
of
problems.
ambition here, and it's more just that there are some physics problems that are. It's like what, we
but it's
need
like-
to try to terraform the sun in
Okay,
order to
but-
figure out we can't.
But hold on, we know of like thousands of problems that this challenge has, like creating a self-sustaining colony on Mars or whatever, and we know that like the first 900 or whatever are solvable with the technologies that we have. We just have to actually do them, and that process itself will probably take a good 50 years to do. And if we don't start, 50 years from now, we'll still be back to where we are today, because literally 50 years ago we could put people on the moon and we can't today. So like technology doesn't just advance on its own without trying, right? So because we didn't try to continue to go beyond or to the moon or beyond,
Totally
we don't
agree.
even have the technology to
Well,
go
maybe
there.
they'll just genetically modify humans
there we go.
so that they can
That's
live there.
thinking outside
Like,
the box.
But my point is, without some sort of ultimate goal of doing that, like you're not going to advance to go there, right?
Once again, I'm drawing a clear line between putting up a colony on Mars and living in a space station that exists on the planet's surface versus ever thinking we're going to be able to terraform
The space
the
station
planet.
would be unlikely to survive on its own without supplies from Earth, right? Like
I just mean if you were to set up camp on the planet's surface of Mars, that's fine. I think that's something that's doable in our lifetimes. I think
Right.
that's going to happen.
But that would be the stepping stone to eventual colonization.
First, you have to have space cows
Yeah.
so that we can eat steaks on Mars.
Solving the real problem.
Right?
Real meat?
But you got to genetically modify it.
Well, you
so
could-
then,
you could have,
so then,
you
what's
know,
the next step?
impossible
Obviously,
meats.
genetically modifying humans so that they can just live there, like, and then just call them Martian humans. I mean, Mars
okay,
people.
are you
closer to
for
that.
are you for?
I think it's all good. Yeah, why not? It's like a big experiment anyway.
You're
all-
totally
apparently
against
We're
it.
either going to
Whoa.
die or we're not going to die.
No. I think that sending people to Mars and solving those problems has huge trickle-down effects. I love space. I'm a huge space nerd. I've attended multiple launches. I proposed in front of the countdown clock for Shuttle Endeavour. Like, I'm
that's
there
awesome.
with you. All I'm saying is that when you say, that the eventuality is reasonable to expect we'll ever actually terraform a planet where you can live there without being in a very sad tent, that part doesn't seem like the best use of the mental bandwidth it's going to take to get there. If you're hoping you're going to trickle that down towards other technology that'll help us, I think getting there from it's what we do, exploration's what we do, that all makes sense. I think you have to understand that if the last 1% is actually impossible, I don't know how much effort there is in spending 99% of that time on it.
The wisdom guy. Come on, what's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are similar to Chris's. The reason I like it is because it pushes technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
It pushes us to think differently, think outside the box, and that technology can help us in lots of other ways. Not just how do we get a rocket, how do we build a space station on Mars, all of that, which whether it happens or not, I don't know. But I feel like the technology that comes out of it will help in very important ways,
Right.
that are more important.
I agree with that, yeah.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. Any final thoughts for closing out the podcast, Mike?
I don't have any closing thoughts. I would
You're
love to
ready to go
have something
surfing.
clever. No. I go, but maybe cave dwarfs on Mars, right? That could be good. That might alleviate all of your problems. Just
All
cave
right.
dwarfs.
Chris.
I'm just in awe of the cave dwarfs guy now. I don't even know how
It's
to
a
follow
cave
that.
dwarf.
You
Yeah.
wanted me to have a final thought. Cave dwarfs is the best thing I could come up with. It seemed good at the time.
We went from cave dwarfs to Mars cows and back again.
Yeah, what do you want?
Well, one thought I had is that they have to have high ceilings because you can jump really high on Mars, or the moon. If we have a moon base, which would be awesome if we did, by the way, especially if it was a vacation spot. Like, it's a 10-day trip. You could go there in spend 3 days there, 3 days back, 10 days total trip. That would be an awesome little vacation, but you need high ceilings on the moon. All right, Bob, final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thought is thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
I've not been happy about being holed up at home for the last 2 years and not being able to come to an event like this, where you actually see humans in person. You see humans,
Yeah.
get to interact with humans, not through a screen,
Not through metaverse?
not through a metaverse. Oh God. So it's nice. Yeah, I really missed
thank
that.
you.
So thanks for putting this on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you very much
Yeah.
for coming, guys.
Oh, I like the gratitude thing. That's wise.
He's like, damn, I should have
Base
done
dwarves
that.
versus
I
a
was like,
genuine sense
I'm
of
just here for the cave dwarfs, and you're
kindness
like
and
all like
gratitude.
zen and grateful and shit.
That's the wisdom.
right.
Aged wisdom.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks to the live audience. Appreciate it. This is a wrap.
All right.
Awesome.